On this edition for Sunday, January 3rd, the 117th Congress formally begins as the coronavirus pandemic continues to make its presence known. Jeff Greenfield on what to expect this week in politics.
Happy birthday, happy birthday.
And a look back to some of the stories we covered in 2020. Next on PBS NewsHour Weekend.
PBS NewsHour Weekend is made possible by Sue and Edgar Wachenheim III, the Anderson Family Fund, Bernard and Denise Schwartz, the Cheryl and Philip Milstein family, Barbara Hope Zuckerberg, the Leonard and Norma Chlorfine Foundation. We try to live in the moment to not miss what's right in front of us. At Mutual of America, we believe taking care of tomorrow can help you make the most of today. Mutual of America Financial Group, retirement services and investments.
For 25 years, Consumer Cellular has been offering no-contract wireless plans designed to help people do more of what they like. Our U.S.-based customer service team can help find a plan that fits you. To learn more, visit consumercellular.tv.
Additional support has been provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. On the day that the 117th United States Congress convened, the Washington Post published audio excerpts of a call between President Donald Trump and the Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, in which Mr. Trump is heard asking Raffensperger to, quote, find enough votes to overturn his November 3rd defeat.
The people of Georgia are angry. The people of the country are angry. And there's nothing wrong with saying that, that you've recalculated.
Well, Mr. President, the challenge that you have is the data you have is wrong.
According to the Secretary of State's recount, President-elect Joe Biden won Georgia by 11,779 votes.
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
Several times during the call, the president repeated the false claim that he won. As of late this afternoon, the White House and the Trump campaign had not commented on the call. Raffensperger's office declined to comment. The release of the recording came as Congress was in the midst of proceedings unlike any seen before, and for the first time in history, on a Sunday.
The clerk will call the names of the next pair.
Mr. Marshall, Mr. McConnell.
Wearing masks and following COVID-19 social distancing protocols, Vice President Mike Pence swore in newly elected and re-elected senators in pairs.
The House will come to order.
Late this afternoon, the House elected Democrat Nancy Pelosi to Speaker and Republican Kevin McCarthy as Minority Leader. To discuss the congressional swearing-in, Georgia's Senate runoff, and the upcoming electoral vote, I'm joined by NewsHour Weekend special correspondent Jeff Greenfield from Santa Barbara, California. Jeff, thank you for joining us. I want to begin with this Washington Post obtained recording of the president's call to the Georgia Secretary of State. What do you make of this?
I really feel like I've left the gravitational pull of planet Earth. In this hour-long phone call, the president alternately begged, cajoled, and threatened the Secretary of State to somehow come up with the 12,000 votes that would give him the state of Georgia. He suggested maybe you could recalculate. You could be in serious political trouble or even criminal trouble. The voting machines. It was really, I think, even to people who in the past have tended to brush off some of Trump's more unconventional comments, this one is really bizarre. And it really has an impact because on Tuesday, there are two Senate races, runoffs, that will decide whether the Democrats or Republicans take the Senate. And Trump has been saying the election is invalid. He's been ranting more about his election than the two Republicans. He's supposed to be in Georgia on Monday in a rural area to try to gin up the vote. And I think a lot of Republicans are worried that if he spends more time talking about the invalid election, he may depress turnout. And I can't emphasize how critical this Georgia election is we've never seen anything like this, where 2 Senate races will decide whether or not, for instance, Mitch McConnell stays as majority leader with essentially veto power over President-elect Biden's cabinet choices, his judicial nominations, his agenda. So, we've lived in a kind of alternate universe for some months about this election, and this is just the latest chapter.
Jeff, this is an awkward moment for Republicans. The party leader is criticizing the voting system while saying, trust it to return these incumbents to Washington.
Sure. A lot of Democrats are sort of having fun saying, well, if you're telling us that the votes for Trump were invalid, then how did you get here? How come we should count your votes? And that's part of what we're going to be seeing on Wednesday when the new Congress counts these votes for another chapter in Can You Believe What's Going On?
So what's the likely consequence of this challenge then come Wednesday?
Well, traditionally, this is a ceremonial event, going through the motions of the vice president opening the envelopes from each state and saying, here are the electoral votes. And in the past, you have had a symbolic challenge or two. This time, you've got dozens of Republican House members and at least 12 Republican senators who mean to challenge the results from the 6 key states. Senator Cruz says he wants a 10-day emergency order. It's not going to work because unless both houses of Congress reject these votes, they're counted, and the Democrats have the House, and there are plenty of Republicans in the Senate who aren't going along with this. But what it tells you is the degree to which Trump has succeeded in A, convincing his party that the election was rigged, and B, persuading or perhaps intimidating huge numbers of elected Republican officials to stand up and say, we want to see about fraud, even though there is absolutely no evidence of any fraud, as the Secretary of State kept trying to convince Trump on in this phone call. It's another example of what I think is going to be a poisonous political atmosphere when Joe Biden takes office.
So, Jeff, I'm curious, what does this portend if the president has this kind of influence on senators and representatives, and he's also calling protesters to D.C. to overturn election results on Wednesday? Beyond this week, what does this portend, if anything, about Trump's influence on and control of and direction of the Republican Party?
Well, it's 2 things. The extent of his influence is so great that you have a sitting congressman, Louis Gohmert, who is in effect calling for violence to prevent the vote. You've got a lot of Trump supporters saying on social media, let's go to Washington, let's blockade the Capitol, let's make sure they can't vote. And then down the road, I think what you're going to see is all the Republican presidential wannabes, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Josh Hawley, are kind of imprisoned. They can't run against Trump as long as Trump is a potential 2024 nominee, because they've, as they used to say, they've plied their trough with Trump. They're all in on him. They're willing to abandon pretty much all the norms of a normal political process to show I'm more pro-Trump than anybody else. And now they're trapped into standing with him unless or until he decides maybe I won't run again. I'll go back to what I said at the beginning. I've been watching politics a pretty long time, and I've never seen anything remotely like this. And it is not an encouraging notion to Biden's belief that, well, once I'm elected in an office, we'll have a new era of cooperation. The signs of that are, to put it mildly, minimal.
All right. Jeff Greenfield for us tonight from Santa Barbara, California. Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks for having me, and more or less Happy New Year.
Yes. COVID-19 and complications from the disease have now claimed the lives of more than 350,000 people in the United States. The staggering loss of life is the highest in the world, and confirmed cases of coronavirus infections are predicted to surge in the coming weeks. This morning, Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's leading infectious disease expert, said he did not expect the death toll to get this high.
To have 300,000 cases in a given day and between 2,000 and 3,000 deaths per day is just terrible. I mean, it is. I mean, there's no running away from the numbers, Martha. It's something that we absolutely got to grasp and get our arms around and turn that inflection down by very intensive adherence to the public health measures uniformly throughout the country with no exception.
Earlier, President Trump took to Twitter to try again to cast doubt on the CDC's official COVID-19 count of cases and the death toll, writing, quote, "The number of cases and deaths is far exaggerated." Mr. Trump's own Surgeon General, Dr. Jerome Adams, said he does not doubt the CDC numbers.
Is the death toll real? 350,000 dead Americans. Is that real? Is that an actual number? Or does the CDC have a bogus way of, when in doubt, call it COVID, as the president falsely claims?
From a public health perspective, I have no reason to doubt those numbers. And I think people need to be very aware that it's not just about the deaths, as we talked about earlier. It's about the hospitalizations, the capacity. These cases are having an impact.
Hospitalizations due to COVID-19 in the U.S. are near record highs at more than 123,000, a number expected to rise as people return from holiday travel. Dr. Fauci said there's good news on the vaccination rollout. In the past 72 hours, about 1.5 million vaccine doses have been distributed, a faster rate than that of the previous weeks. For a look ahead to the Georgia Senate runoffs and the latest national and international news, visit pbs.org/newshour. We've been looking back at some of the stories from 2020 with our team of producers and reporters here at NewsHour Weekend. Hari Srinivasan spoke with Christopher Booker about some of the stories he covered in what turned out to be an out-of-the-ordinary year.
Chris, in some ways, it's almost like dog years. It seems so long ago when you went out to New Rochelle, New York, where one of the first clusters of coronavirus occurred.
That's right. We went out, it was March 14th that the piece ran, which was a Saturday. And this was the very first day that New York State had opened a mobile testing site. And at that time, they had tested 200 people. And they were estimating that they were going to be able to test 500 people the next day with the hopes of being able to test 6,000 people a day. And just yesterday, I just looked, New York tested almost 250,000 people.
And there was just, at the time, there was so much uncertainty because we were still figuring out what the effects of this virus were going to be on our society.
That's right. And New Rochelle was the first community to go into essentially a containment zone. And what's interesting is the mayor at the time said, listen, this isn't a quarantine. This doesn't mean that people can't come and go into New Rochelle, but it's essentially an effort to contain the virus. And what's amazing is the people we spoke to at the time, no one was wearing a mask. No one really knew what was to come. We went and spoke with a small little restaurant, and the restaurant owner was saying, yeah, business is way down. I actually just called them today to see if they were still in business, and sure enough, they're still doing takeout. One of the haunting aspects from that New Rochelle report is that during our two-way, we reported the very first death in New York State.
Chris, we have any idea how the virus is spreading in New York?
Right now, what we know, and this will certainly change, is that there are over 500 confirmed cases in New York State, the majority of which are in New York City. And just this morning, New York State reported its first death. An 82-year-old woman in New York City who had been suffering from emphysema did indeed die from the coronavirus.
Christopher Booker joining us from New Rochelle tonight. Thanks so much.
Since that time, New York has had 36,000 deaths and climbing. It's just unbelievable that in such a short amount of time, there's been such loss.
Chris, you were one of the people that we sent out, along with Maury Rothman, to cover some of the protests in the wake of George Floyd's death.
I have to do something. I can't just stay home and pretend like this isn't happening. Hopefully, this brings us closer, stops the violence, especially against people that look like myself and others.
That was actually my very first time out reporting since the pandemic began. It was one of those moments that felt too big. It was clearly something had changed, and it felt very important that we needed to be there and bear witness and to present what the situation was like on the ground. We had seen images of violence and destruction throughout the country, but that's not what we saw. We saw a very civil, socially distanced, for all intents and purposes, protest, at a moment when the country really was grappling with, obviously, the pandemic, but a reckoning of racism and social injustice that we still don't necessarily understand what will be the outcome of.
You did have a chance to do some pieces that got us off of those two big stories, especially around music.
Yes. our whole editorial schedule went out the window in March. We had a number of pieces already filmed and plans to do other things, but like everyone else in the world, we changed directions. But we did start to come back to these in the summertime. So we did start to venture out a little bit, producing a few music and arts pieces here and there, including with photographer Ethan Russell. He actually took many of the final photographs of the Beatles when they were still a band. There was also a piece with John Densmore, the drummer from The Doors, who's written a book about creativity, and Chris Frantz, the co-founder and drummer from Talking Heads, about his new book, Remain in Love.
I'd like to thank the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for giving this band a happy ending.
How was that a happy ending, and why?
Well, we hadn't performed together for something like 18 years when we did that. And so there was that whole period of like sort of wondering why, was it something I said?
What I really appreciate speaking with these people about is obviously they've had remarkable success in the artistic and musical world, but what's so fascinating is so many of these people, their success was short. It was a finite period when you look at their whole life. And now as they look back, it really provides insight into how we live a full balanced life. And just to take this a little further, I think that's kind of what we're all going through. Obviously, we're not all rock stars and musicians, but all of us in this past 9 months have had to reevaluate everything that we know and everything that we do and how we balance our life and our profession and our existence. And I think it's really kind of endearing to hear this from people that are of note and that we all kind of collectively celebrate.
So Chris, you are sitting outside, real outside, not a virtual background. What's it been like doing all of this work remotely?
Well, I know I'm sick of my living room, and I assumed that viewers are sick of my living room, so I decided for this I would sit outside. Working remotely has been interesting because at first it was a novelty. We were able to kind of skip across the country very easily. We could interview people, multiple people in multiple locations throughout the day, and almost kind of tickled by how easy this was. Now, 9 months in, I'm a little tired of it. I miss the human-to-human contact and in-person conversation. My living room is, for full disclosure, is a total disaster now because my kids are in there and have been playing in the snow. So I'm trying to be quaint and sit outside, but really it's a reflection of my own laziness at working from home.
We continue with our look back on the stories from 2020 with producer Maury Rothman.
Maury, in the news business, there's always what we think the story is and then what the story turns out to be. This year, we were planning on covering one big story, and that changed.
Yeah, I mean, we came into this year fully planning that we were going to cover the presidential election, kind of figuring out what states we were going to hit, possibly even a road trip. Obviously, a lot of things changed in March through the coronavirus and then later through Black Lives Matter. Those ended up being the major stories, but what was interesting about those was that those became the kind of vehicles through which people thought about the election and began participating maybe even more in our democracy. And for us as reporters, our roles changed a little bit as well. Usually you and I are traveling somewhere around the US, covering an issue that people may not have heard about, or somewhere in another country talking about an issue that relates back to something back home. This year I could cover protests going on down the block and might see a neighbor carrying a sign, or we'd hear the sirens outside our homes as ambulances went to hospitals carrying people possibly with coronavirus. And so the story is right outside. And, I think that as a result of the stories being so close to home, some of our reporting became more personal.
So remind people, one of the places that we took the show on the road this year was Pennsylvania. We were in Bethlehem. Why?
Yeah, we went to Bethlehem, which is the birthplace of Bethlehem Steel, because we wanted to cover the election in some way still. Pennsylvania is pretty close to New York, and northeast Pennsylvania, where Bethlehem is a swing district. We talked to a lot of people about the election and how they were feeling, and one of the main themes that emerged was that people were feeling frustrated with what was happening with the coronavirus, and they didn't really know where to place that frustration. Some people placed it with state leaders and felt that the lockdown was overly harsh and was hurting their business. Others blamed President Trump for the lack of what they thought was a coordinated plan to stop the spread of the coronavirus. Beyond the coronavirus, people still cared about the major issues: economics, healthcare, And especially in a place like Bethlehem that had seen some hard times before when the steel plant closed in the 90s, people still really care about what's going on with their wallets. And what we found was that while a lot of President Trump's speeches in areas like Bethlehem, Harrisburg, other places talked about the return of heavy industry and harkened back to the old steel days, the region had really moved on. In the Lehigh Valley, where we did a lot of reporting, there's a new economy that has to do with e-commerce, biotech, meds and eds.
You and I worked on a story for a special, an update on race and policing. Remind our audience what that was about and maybe even what's happened since then.
Yeah, so, in the beginning of the summer, when the Black Lives Matter protests were going on in almost every city in America, we decided to do a special on policing. And one of the issues that you and I focused on was facial recognition technology being used by police. The same week that we aired that special, IBM, Microsoft, and Amazon all put a sliding scale of restrictions on what they would do in terms of selling facial recognition to police or to public authorities. This has continued to be a major issue as elected officials look to answer the call that Black Lives Matter protests put out with actual legislative action. There's a couple of bills in the Senate that have been introduced over the summer, one that would curb the use of facial recognition by corporations and another that would look to stop facial recognition use in federal capacities. And it's an issue that is going to continue to be debated into 2021. A couple cities, Portland, Oregon, and Madison, Wisconsin, among others, passed bans on facial recognition. And recently, Massachusetts has been weighing a major police reform bill, and one of the sticking points is the use of facial recognition.
All right, Maury Rothman, thanks for all your stories this year. Happy holidays.
Thanks so much. Happy holidays.
And finally, we hear from Tom Casciato on some of the stories he worked on last year.
Tom, as the pandemic set in, we started doing stories about how it was affecting businesses large and small, and you focused on a bookstore in Portland. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Portland's my hometown, and anybody who's been to Portland or lives in Portland knows how central Powell's Books is to the city. It's hard to talk about a store being a major cultural institution, but that's exactly what Powell's is.
When people come to visit Portland, visiting Powell's is at the top of the list. When you go to a city, you go to Paris, you want to see the Eiffel Tower. You go to Portland, you want to go to Powell's bookstore.
Samia Bashir, a poet and a professor at Portland's Reed College, says Powell's is special for readers and for writers. Each year, Powell's 500 or so readings draw an estimated 36,000 people, big numbers in bookstore world.
It became very scary when COVID hit and it looked like Powell's might close. They're still hanging on now. They've closed a couple of Powell's locations in the city. They had one at Portland Airport that's now closed. They had one devoted to books about home and gardening that is now closed. The main store is still open. I talked to one Portlander on the phone the other day who said it used to be that the biggest problem standing in line at Powell's this time of year was the long line to check out. Now that it's open with limited capacity, the biggest problem is the long line just to get into the store.
Your informal beat, in a way, is music. You were able to profile an Australian singer. What drew you to Courtney?
Courtney Barnett is, I think, perhaps the greatest singer-songwriter of her generation. I know the Taylor Swift fans won't like hearing that. I'm also confident the Taylor Swift fans don't care what I think anyway. But she has such a command of language, such a great presence.
Were you a word kid? Were you a kid who loved words and playing with words?
Yeah, I loved reading.
Were you making up words then? You do make up words.
Have I made up that many words? I don't think I have.
Well, you used emphysema as a verb. to emphyseme.
My hands are shaky, my knees are weak. I can't seem to stand on my own 2 feet. I'm breathing, but I'm wheezing. Feel like I'm emphyseming. My throat feels like a funnel filled with weed picks and kerosene.
That's not making up, that's just being creative.
Yeah.
I'd rather die than owe the hospital till I get old.
It just seemed like an ordinary profile of a singer. It was supposed to be on the air right in the middle of March, right around the time you and I and everybody else left the office and went to work at home for these many months. And we waited weeks and weeks to put the piece on the air. And finally, there was just so much COVID news that was rightly taking up so much news space We just decided to put it online. So I fear that fewer people saw that than I would have hoped. It does stream at pbs.org. It does stream on YouTube. And I hope maybe they will take a look at it now online.
That's all for this edition of PBS NewsHour Weekend. For the latest news updates, visit pbs.org/newshour. I'm Michael Hill. Thanks for watching, stay healthy, and have a good night.
PBS NewsHour Weekend is made possible by Sue and Edgar Wachenheim III, the Anderson Family Fund, Bernard and Denise Schwartz, the Cheryl and Philip Milstein family, Barbara Hope Zuckerberg, the Leonard and Norma Clorfine Foundation. We try to live in the moment to not miss what's right in front of us. At Mutual of America, we believe taking care of tomorrow can help you make the most of today. Mutual of America Financial Group, retirement services and investments. Additional support has been provided by Consumer Cellular and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
You're watching PBS.